Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group, and with me as always is Chip Janiszewski of the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm doing all right.
That's good. All set for the rain?
Yeah, we are expecting a nor'easter here in New England. Coming down. Fortunately, it is too warm to snow, so we are expecting about 2.5 to 3 inches of rain.
Which we sorely need.
Yes.
So.
Now, of course, as we come to you, we're recording this on a Monday morning, and Chip and I had vastly different weekends. As I spent the weekend dealing with deadlines and clients, and he spent the weekend at a retreat. And the contrast of those two weekends made us think, well, what should we talk about today? How about the importance of getting away from work and refreshing yourself? Because it's something I could sorely use and something Chip had the opportunity to do this weekend. So, Chip, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you did?
Actually, it parlays beautifully into what we're going to be talking about today, because a lot of what we're going to be talking about is to uncomplicate things in our lives. And the theme for our retreat this weekend was the light of simplicity, which just listening to the phrase of that kind of is really, really apropos in today's life as far as uncluttering things, because we've talked many times before about how human beings tend to overcomplicate things, and our minds are racing with 60,000 thoughts a day and so on and so forth. And what the whole theme of this was to take a deep breath and to identify different ways in which we can uncomplicate our lives. And it was just really, really the best retreat I've ever been on. It was just an amazing experience. So we'll be incorporating some of the things that I learned today into our talking.
Excellent. Well, why don't you tell us, what did you learn as a method for making your life more uncomplicated?
Living in the present moment. We talked, one of the best presentations that we had was talking about restlessness and all of the different things that makes us restless. And a lot of times what we end up doing is these are the different thoughts and the negative things going on around us and so on and so forth that just really, really make us paranoid about things. And what we tend to do with those is go from the state of restlessness into surface living, which is just kind of glossing over things and really without solving the problems and that kind of thing. And what we talked about is that the real solution for tending to go back and forth between this restlessness and surface living, it's like a circle that you just get in going back and forth, is the present moment. Just taking a deep breath and really just enjoying the present moment and blocking everything out just by concentrating on your breathing and this. It's, a lot of it is mindfulness exercises and that kind of things, but it really, really puts things into simple perspective. And so that was one of the presentations that really, really was powerful. That went back and forth between those things. And again, just talking about the three different things, the stage of restlessness, which drives everything, and we either just put things on the surface and kind of gloss it over and live in what I call the land of Sameville, or we can get in the present moment and really, really attack these things just through meditation and just putting things in perspective. So the only thing that can calm things down is just getting into the present moment, because the present moment is just the present moment, and it doesn't have all the other stuff that causes the restlessness in it.
That sounds fantastic. There's a quote that I actually posted not too long ago that says, "Worry is paying interest on a debt that's not due yet." And a lot of us get into that. We pay so much attention to what might be happening or what might happen, and we get so concerned about that, we get all turned around in our own head and cause our own stress. And we really do need to take a moment, preferably more than a moment, and just, focus on being in the moment. Focus on your breathing, focus on yourself, your surroundings, and not worry about everything else.
Yeah, we started off on Friday night. The retreat went from Friday night to yesterday on Sunday. And the first thing they always do is they show a video. And the video, The Light of Simplicity, was just a 3-minute video with music and phrases and so on and so forth. And the very first thing that they said was set the tone for the whole weekend retreat. The first slide said there are 3 things to learn in life. Number 1 is simplicity. Number 2 is patience. And number 3 is compassion. And those are all 3 very, very powerful words when you really, really put things in perspective. And the whole rest of the video was just an amazing presentation of different phrases about this. And I'll go over, if we get a chance, we'll talk about how to conquer world peace. How's that for a subject?
Conquering world peace. Later I like that.
Yeah, how to make the whole world come to peace. I'll go through that in a little bit. But simplicity, patience, compassion, the 3 things that we need to learn in life. So that's everybody's homework.
Absolutely. And I mean, we say it and it sounds so simple, but in reality it isn't. I mean, it's more difficult than it sounds to do, especially when we're bombarded by everything that's going around us. And I think it's very important for people to take time. I mean, again, I said earlier, I spent this weekend working. When I don't have to do that, I do my best to use my weekends to shut everything out. So no news, no social media, nothing that's going to bombard me with everything that's going on in the world. And
news and social media are 2 of the biggest things that feed restlessness.
Right, and you need a chance. You need to give your brain a chance to rest from it. The brain is a muscle like any other, and the more you use it, the more stressed it becomes. So, just like an exercise where you have to rest between exercises so that your muscles can gain the benefit, you need to rest your brain as well.
Absolutely. Mindfulness is so important in this.
So, you've got me intrigued. Tell us more about this conquering world peace.
It was amazing. The first slide had a picture of just somebody that was a little bit freaked out about the world, and it says, if there's to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. This is like a chunking down thing. And the next slide had a picture of a soldier with his kid on his shoulder and an American flag. And that one said, if there is to be peace in the nations, there needs to be peace in the cities. And then it had another slide that kind of showed the cities, and drilling down to, if there is to be peace in the cities, then there must be peace between neighbors. And it showed a neighborhood and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And then it said, if there is to be peace among neighbors, then there must be peace among families. And then the last had a really, really sweet picture of an old lady, and it said, if there is to be peace among families, there must be peace in the heart. So it all starts with us. And I know we've talked about this before. We talk about goal setting and chunking things down and so on and so forth. But imagine what the world would be if we all discovered the peace in our heart and just started practicing things. We talked about, turning off these things that make us restless, like the news and all that other kind of stuff, and focusing on that. And, people ask me, and, I do some Bible study and things like that, and they ask, how can we change the world? How can we make the world peaceful? And I said, it all starts with us. You cannot change other people, but if you can act with a peaceful heart yourself and start influencing others by the way that you act, and have them start demanding that they work that way instead of getting just rolling with the news and everything else, that's how it goes. And if everybody starts with the heart and just goes forward themselves, you literally can start a movement. And it was so clear this weekend doing this with 100 men on retreat. And, it kind of softened us all up. It was really, really just amazing. But it really is just pure common sense. I mean, none of these things are news to anybody. They're, what I call BFOs, blinding flashes of the obvious. If we can work from our hearts in a peaceful manner towards everybody that we meet in the community, towards our families, and then the families going to the neighbors, and then to the cities and the nations in the world. Sounds like a simple solution, and it really is. Easier said than done, definitely. But that was really so powerful, and that was part of this 3-minute video that I'm now going to start watching every single day, because I did buy the DVD first thing after I got out of that session Friday night.
Excellent. Yes. I mean, especially in today's world, it has become blindingly obvious that everybody needs to show more tolerance. I mean, we've reached a point where people are yelling at strangers when they find out who they voted for. We've reached the point where people have forgotten that it's okay for someone not to agree with you. They're allowed their point of view. And that doesn't mean you have to be in conflict with them. You have to learn to accept them. And the only way to accept them is to work on accepting yourself. And if you are comfortable in yourself, then it's easier to say, okay, this is me. Now, they have their beliefs, and that's fine. It may not agree with yours, but they have that right. And if we all just thought about it for a moment before reacting, and took that absolutely. Deep breath. Go ahead.
I mean, you heard about the, duality versus true self. And the bottom line is that we are all creatures of our own ego, but on the other side, we all came from the same source. So I don't, you can call it God or you can call it whatever you want, but we are all connected together. And so when our egos disagree with each other, it's really, really best to realize that, there's nobody that's right and there's nobody that's wrong. We all have our own opinions. And if we can collaborate on them and listen and so on and so forth, I mean, there's no winner to an argument or a conflict. So if you can take conflict to collaboration, which really is just listening and understanding whether you agree or not with the person that you're talking to, that is really a huge source of just working from your heart. And it's obviously a great way to achieve peacefulness just between the two of you and spread it to other people. It's all just a matter of how you react to things. But with an open heart and with just open ears, that is really, really the most important thing that you can do in relationships with other people.
That's it. There's an old saying, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, use in proportion. And if people listened a little more, it would go a long way. I actually found myself in a conflict over this weekend, and it absolutely flabbergasted me because everybody in the conversation was working towards the same goal. They all had the same goal in mind. But I had suggested an alternate route to get to that goal. And all hell broke loose. How dare I suggest this? It absolutely amazed me.
Wow.
And, if people were so set on, we have to get to this goal, we have to do it this way. It's like, well, no. I mean, if you're working towards a common goal, there are always multiple ways of getting there. Some ways are more effective than others, and you have to be open to those new ideas. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same result. So be open to the new.
Absolutely. And that's one of the greatest opportunities that we have is the power of the mastermind and getting several people together with their own ways of approaching things to come up with a fantastic solution for whatever you're doing. But as you say, it all starts with listening to each other and hearing each other out, whether you agree with what they're saying or not, because the bottom line is some of the things that they may be talking about melded with some of the things that you're talking about and somebody else are talking about. That's how you get the solution, and everybody's got things to offer as far as that goes. But the most important thing you can be doing, the coolest thing about a mastermind, is supporting each other and just getting momentum there just because you're on a roll and you're starting to feel the chemistry and that kind of thing. And that is so powerful when you're talking about mastermind groups. Obviously, yesterday were the football games. The team gets on a roll and they got the chemistry going and they're unstoppable. And yet 2 weeks from now, they could get clobbered by the other team. But
right,
if you're working as a team, it's just so important to realize that you're a part of a solution rather than the answer. Otherwise, you might as well just all go into separate rooms and solve the problem yourself and come back and compare it.
Right, and don't dismiss something just because it's different from what you were thinking. Different is good. You have to expand your mind. Far too often, I hear people say, oh, well, they're not in the situation. They don't understand. Well, how do you know unless you listen to them? They may have had a similar situation, or they may simply have a different point of view on the situation. But unless you listen, unless you learn from them, you're never going to find out, and you may be blocking yourself off to something that could be really useful.
Yeah, and you bring up a really, really good point as far as they may have gone through something that we don't know, and nobody knows everything about everybody that they're dealing with, even if they're family members and friends and so on and so forth. You don't know that kind of stuff. So it's so important to just honor what they've been through, and more so, just as you said, I mean, they may have something that they've been through that's really, really going to help contribute to that just by talking through that and their experiences with that. So it's so important to do that because we are all different, and that's one of the beauties of this whole thing.
Right. I mean, we're all the sum of our experiences, and no two people have exactly the same experiences. Even in the same family, even siblings have separate experiences, and those experiences create differences. And if we can learn from those differences, and not simply repeat our behavior the same way over and over again, it can help us be more accepting. And goes back to, you're comfortable in your own skin and you can accept others. Let that grow and see where that goes.
Absolutely. One of the perspectives that I got this weekend was about complaining. And the person who gave this talk was just an amazing guy over at Holy Family. For those of you who are spiritual and Catholics and stuff like that, it's great to go to, especially this retreat. But he talked about complaining, and there is a gentleman named, I guess, Kyle Cleese or something like that, who defined complaining equals judgment plus worship. And he talked about, now, how does worship come in complaining? And what happens is when you're complaining about something, you are actually judging what's going on, and you make yourself a slave of that judgment. And if you're making yourself a slave of that judgment, you are actually worshiping what's going on there. And that's really what victimizing yourself is all about. And so, the perspective that he put on that, the spin, is just amazing. And obviously, nobody likes being a victim of complaining and judging and so on and so forth. So it's just so important to understand that. And, I've talked about actually I do a presentation on how to stop complaining, and I've mentioned before, but one of the best books that you can read on that subject is A Complaint-Free World by Pastor Will Bowen. And if you go to acomplaintfreeworld.org, I think that's the website where you can get all the information on that. But that's the bottom line, is if you're judging things and you're just getting really restless about that, you're actually becoming the slave to that, or worshiping the problem that you're getting hung up on that really is not real to begin with, because it's all in your head.
Yeah. And, everything we've been talking about, complaining and dealing with people's differences, these are all external factors. But to start and to be accepting and not be able to complain, you really have to start with the internal factors and really get to know and understand yourself. And that, goes back to what we were saying earlier about finding time to shut the world out and just be by yourself in the moment and learn from yourself, learn about yourself, and learn to accept yourself for what you are. Because if you can't accept yourself, you're never going to be able to accept anything from outside yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, the key to misery is really just beating yourself up all the time. So it is so important, and it is not taboo to love yourself and to see the best in yourself, because it's impossible, number one, to give your best to the world if you don't. And number two, it's impossible for you to be happy if you're not happy with yourself in the very first place. So it's really so important to work on yourself, work on others. If you show gratitude towards others and whatever, it's going to come back to you also, and that's really going to help pump you up also. So it's really, really important to look in that mirror and smile uncontrollably until you start laughing. Have a good time. And it's okay to do that, and it's necessary to do that.
Right. So many of us get so caught up in what the outside world thinks of us that we're focusing incessantly on our own flaws. And while, yes, you do want to always be improving yourself, you don't want to focus on what's wrong with you. Yes, none of us are perfect. None of us are going to be perfect. But we have to accept that, take that in, and say, yes, I'm okay with that. I'm flawed, but I'm working on it. We are all works in progress. And if you can accept that in yourself, it goes a long way.
Yeah. I mean, another saying is you look at every problem as being a gift. It's an opportunity to solve something and make yourself better. And the bottom line is you can't control other people's thoughts. And so if you get hung up on that, that's your own problem. One of my favorite sayings is, what other people think about you is none of your business. Right. So it's just impossible to control other people's thoughts. And the bottom line is, if you have peace in your own heart and know that you're being the best that you can be and working towards being even better and showing kindness and compassion and gratitude towards others, that's really the key to being happy, fulfilled, and just really, really a great contributor to the world, as only you can do.
Right. And it all starts with your attitude towards yourself. And it's really important to take that time. I mean, we all have tons of responsibilities, and there's work and family and organizations we work for, things we want to get done. And that's all great. We want to keep doing, we want to keep building. But you also have to take that time and take care of yourself. Because if all you're doing is taking care of your clients, taking care of your family, doing, it wears you down, both physically and mentally. Now, physically, it becomes very obvious when you're physically run down because you get sick. You literally, your body will go, that's it, I can't do anymore. And you get sick. But you also get mentally run down, and you're stressed and you're exhausted. But most of us tend to ignore that and keep pushing on. And it's really important that when it does become this overwhelming part of your life, you have to step aside. You have to step back, turn everything off, and take care of yourself and relax. Now, that could be meditation. That could be listening to music. It could simply be going out with some friends and just having a good time. But you need to take care of your own mental well-being, because without that, you're not going to be able to accomplish anything you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really kind of what we started with today, is the key to inner freedom is to stop bouncing between restlessness and surface living and getting into the present moment and putting things in perspective. It's just so important to do that, because you hit the nail right on the head that really we're inflicting our own disease on ourselves. And if you'll tear that word apart, dis-ease, that's what we're talking about, is all the different things that we're letting bother us. And that is why people get sick, and both physically and mentally and so on and so forth. A lot of it is self-inflicted, and if you have a positive outlook towards things and whatever, you tend to not get sick. And if you do, it's a whole lot less than other people do, because some people are run down all the time and other people are just bouncing from day to day, and they can do 10 times as much as the other people just because of their attitude towards things.
All right. And it doesn't have to take a long time for you to take care of yourself. People always say, oh, I just don't have time. Everybody can have time, because all you have to do is a couple of times during the day, take 10 seconds, close your eyes, take a deep breath, let it go. And just do that every hour or two in the course of your day. You'll find it makes the day go by easier, and you're less stressed out as you're doing things. Don't let it build up to the point where you need to take an entire weekend and just completely decompress. Do this on a regular basis throughout the day, and prevent it from happening in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you combine that with a daily practice of gratitude, we've talked about gratitude journals and things like that before, and victory logs, and just writing things down that you're grateful for and going back and looking at that. That is the sure way to really, really relieve the stress and to go back and realize all the great things that are happening to you. And gratitude is so much more powerful than negativity. And if you make a habit out of that by just writing down and feeling gratitude every day, making it a daily habit, that is a big, big part of the battle, is overcoming negativity with positive practice.
Exactly. Now, we're just about out of time. So, Chip, what's the one takeaway you want our listeners to have?
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Work on your heart.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. My takeaway for this episode is you have to take care of yourself, both mentally and physically. Take the time to relax and make sure you are good with yourself. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. I'm Eric Lopkin with Chip Janiszewski. We're here every week. You can catch us at blogtalkradio.com/Success Showcase, or you can find the Success Showcase podcast on the iTunes Store and the Apple Podcasts app. We look forward to joining you again. Have a great week.